Just a short video showing the German-made Petromax Rapid Super 829 500 candid power kerosene lantern working. I picked this up on eBay about a week ago. I got it, what did I pay for this? 60 bucks, I think it was, because it had some corrosion. You can still see some corrosion on the reflector there. This, by the way, is available new if you wanted to. Just lifts right off. The tank still needs final polishing. I ran out of polish, but it's looking much better than it was. And despite all the corrosion and crud and dirt and cobwebs and whatever, didn't actually need any repair. What you see here running, I just put a mantle on it. I fueled it, pumped it up, did the preheat sequence, and it went right off, no problem. And it's been burning out here for, what time is it now? Getting into the afternoon, so I think it's 2 o'clock. Been burning since about 10:30. It's almost 4 hours, you know, and these use kerosene, not white gas. White gas is for Coleman lanterns. Coleman does make a kerosene lantern. This one uses kerosene too. So that's to be remembered. If you own one of these and you're gonna run it, don't do it with Coleman fuel. It's too high in octane. You could have some serious problems doing that. So, but kerosene's easy enough to come by. I think I picked this can up at an estate sale for what? A couple of dollars, maybe 50. No, probably not even that. I probably paid 10 cents to 25 cents for this. Because usually what I'll do is I'll clean out the chemicals cabinet. I'll put it in a tote, and then I'll just give one price, usually about $5 to $10 for the whole thing, everything. And this new from True Value Hardware, probably about 20 years ago when the guy bought it, was $2.69. I'm sure that was an inflated price back then too. You can get it by the gallon from Amazon fairly cheaply. And a gallon is enough to run this forever. This design goes back to, I believe, before the First World War in Germany. They really haven't changed it much. You see, it's got a pressure gauge here. It's got a pump here. Here is your flame control on-off switch, basically. Unlike a Coleman lantern, this light is not adjustable. It burns at 500 candle power or nothing. You know, it's on or it's off. It doesn't have any in-between settings. What you have there is what it burns at. This is your preheater. You open this, you flip this down. I'm not going to do it now because it's lit. You flip this down. It floods the entire chamber with kerosene vapor that you then ignite with, you know, a match or whatever. And that blows like a blowtorch. And it starts to heat up the carburetor tube assembly there. Governor tube, whatever you want to call it. You see it wraps around the flame right there. That helps vaporize the fuel. And you need that with kerosene. You can see it's got all the German markings and stampings on there. It says Petromax right on it. Now, I know they still make this brand new. I don't know if they're still made in Germany or if they are made in China. Petromax makes them in China now. I've read different things on the internet. I have no idea. I really didn't look into it. I know you can get them on Amazon brand new. They have one that's like natural brass color, and then this one, which is the chrome one, which is, I'm imagining the very first one's probably when nickel plated. But this one, I think, is from the 1980s or maybe the 90s. I don't know. Could even be the 70s. It's really hard to tell with these. And it is chrome plated, definitely chrome. When you buy the lamp new, you don't get the reflector, the shade. You don't get this. This just lifts right off. You put the bail up, and this just pops right off. You just get the lantern. This is an extra. I think on Amazon you get this shade here for 60 bucks, which sounds a little high to me, but I guess at least it's available, right? There's also a reflector that goes on the back here to reflect more light to the front. You can get that. You can get a lot of replacement parts, like these pressure gauges. This is also the fuel cap. Excuse me. You can get rebuild parts for your pump. You can get a new preheater assembly here. None of that was needed here. This was all good. And of course, you can get the glass shade too. Excuse me, man. dry throat. It does have, I think, does this have a serial number on it? I thought it did. Maybe not. So I don't know how you would get an accurate date on something like this just by the style of the writing and everything else. I know this is not one of the really old ones. It just looks 80s to me, 80s or 90s. But it really doesn't look that much different than the brand new ones they're offering on Amazon, so I don't know. Real easy to take these things apart, to service them, clean them. I mean, being the era that they're from, they're not exactly, extremely complex devices. I don't know which came first, this or the Coleman lantern, or maybe somebody else. I don't know. There's obvious similarities with the Coleman lantern. Was one borrowing from the other? I don't know that either, but overall look is kind of like Coleman. Works just as well as a Coleman, except this will burn much easier to source kerosene. White gas, you really only get that in the cans at sporting goods stores or hardware stores or mail order. You don't just walk into most local stores and there's a can of Coleman fuel. You have to plan that out a little bit. It's not available at gas stations or anything like that. Kerosene fuel, because it's used in so many heaters and such still, you can still get that. You can still get that by the 55-gallon drum if you want it. It's a lot easier, and it's also a lot cheaper than white gas. So, that's also something to take into consideration if you're looking for a camping lantern or something like that. Or maybe you have a remote cabin that's off the grid and you're looking for something like this to light it. Well, if you go Coleman, unless you buy the Coleman kerosene model, if you buy the white gas model, you're going to have to source that white gas ahead of time from somewhere, and it's going to cost you more money. Kerosene, on the other hand, you can get anywhere. You do have to use the mantles that are intended for this lantern, for the kerosene. They're not the same as a lot of the other ones. I've gotten conflicting accounts of people using Coleman mantles on some of these. I don't know. The Petromax ones are available on Amazon, on eBay. You can get them in multiple packs. They're not exactly cheap, but if you don't break them, they'll last a very long time. If you bang it around, you're going to crumble it. But they're safe to use. They belong to these lanterns. So I just went with the correct one. And what else was I going to say about these? Just easy to use, easy to deal with, cheap to fuel. But initial expense to buy them is pretty high. I think the new one on Amazon, be it made in China or Germany or whatever, I don't know, without any of the extras, without the shade and the reflector and anything else. There's even a heater, a little stove that replaces the cap you put on here. Without any of that, it's still almost $400. In fact, I think it's over 400 with taxes and shipping and all of that nonsense. If you go to eBay, there are, I don't know how many, I didn't count them, but there's a lot of them for sale. Average price is $250 used. That's average. There's some a lot more than that because they're brand new in the box, and there's some that's cheaper because they're literally basket cases. But expect to pay at least around $250, $275, somewhere like that. But the only thing to beware of, you may not get as lucky as I did and have a lantern that just works as is. I didn't have to do any actual repair to this. It was all just cleaning. That's it. Just scrubbing and taking off the corrosions like a corroded car bumper from the 60s or whatever. It's the same thing. I believe that is, I don't think that's brass under there. I think that's iron under there, steel. It could be brass. I don't want to scrape it to find out. And I haven't put a magnet on it. Matter of fact, do I have a magnet here? Ouch. Well, I do have a magnet with some phonograph needles on it. Let's see. Oh, no, that is brass. Yeah, that's brass, because I know the shade and the cap are steel. I'm pretty sure anyway. I don't want to, not when it's hot. But the tank apparently is brass. Same as it would have been in, 1910 or something? I don't know. So that's good. It just needed a lot of cleaning, and it still does. You can see it's a bit dull yet. I have to go over that. I have some stuff coming to polish that up, buff it up a little bit, make it look really nice. I wanted this to go along with that Japanese, how is that pronounced? Hakasuka lantern from 1937. The Navy and Railroad lantern that I found at the flea market a couple months back, I guess it is now. We're at the end. We're actually Thanksgiving Day, so happy Thanksgiving, everybody. So it's been a while. I did that in early October. So it's been at least a month and a half since I got that I'm not going to fuel up the Japanese lantern. It's pretty much the same as this. It's also a kerosene lantern. Pretty sure it is. Yeah, that's kerosene. But because I suspect it's never been fueled and it's never been fired, I don't want to change that. I want to keep it as a display piece. This, on the other hand, has been fired in the past, and I will use this for various things. So this is working now. That kind of fits. It fills the slot in my little collection of stuff without me having to pay $400 for a lantern plus extras. I'm just too cheap for that. It's not going to happen. You know, $60 I'll pay, but I'm not paying, $400. Not when I have dozens of really good Coleman lanterns, and I could use if I need it. But these are really cool looking. They do look really cool with all the the chrome plating and all that stuff, and the pressure gauge and that blowtorch preheater. They're fun. They're really fun, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that collect these out there that know a lot more about them than I do. But maybe there's information online too I haven't found. I didn't look that hard. I just kind of peeked in a couple of internet message boards and got some basic information on them. Well, there you go. Just a quick look at the Petromax. While it's working. Oh, and there's the other thing they have. Almost forgot. You see up there where the mantle attaches? That is ceramic. That's a ceramic piece. And they now do offer a stainless steel one. That just unscrews. It just unscrews very, very easily. Comes off with the cap, which lifts right off. You take these, you unscrew it over here on either side of the bail. You unscrew it a little bit, the cap pops right off. That comes off with it, with the lantern off. That comes off with it. You just unscrew the ceramic piece to clean it or whatever. They do, I'm told, have a tendency to break sometimes. So it's a good idea to replace that with the stainless steel one that is now available. I forget, I think it's $30 and change, maybe something like that. You might be able to shop that around a little bit. I am going to replace it on this. It just wasn't necessary right now to, for what I'm doing with it here, just testing it. So what I'll do eventually is I will replace that. Good idea to replace it. Now, I don't know why they would go with ceramic. Maybe that was something to do with what was available, 100 years ago. Maybe that was the best material at the time. I really don't know. I don't know. I suspect that's what the case is, though. And, of course, this is some kind of Pyrex. And that's it. We'll just watch it a little bit.